How did you find out your soul was cheating on you? Used her iPad on her honeymoon at Disney. She hadn't used it in a while, so when I powered it, all her texts from her phone synced over. Saw the whole affair flash before my eyes. Doing much better now than I was then. Well, the guy she was cheating with decided that he wanted her all to himself, so he found me and told me about it. Back when cell phones had limited minutes, I got notified that we were over our limit. Checked the last bill and nothing but her and her boss talking at all hours of the day. Then she stupidly left her email open on my computer, and I got to read how he enjoyed touching her boobs a lot. My stay-at-home wife at the time got pregnant despite we hadn't had Shreks for a while and I had a vasectomy. She tried to hide her pregnancy under the guise of weight gain, but the medical statements in the mail gave away the purpose of her doctor visits. The dude she cheated on me with had no idea I even existed, and I was out of town visiting my dad in Boston. He sent me a message on Facebook telling me he's sorry, but he had no idea I existed and he was drunk that night. He woke up before her and used the bathroom and saw my shaving kit. She said it was her roommate's, but it was a one-bedroom apartment. He did some snooping and found out she was dating me. Real bro move. I had no anger towards him. Actually the opposite. He even invited me to have some drinks and he'd pay. I respectfully declined. Luckily we only had 6 weeks left on our lease. The most painful and awkward 6 weeks of my life. She threw away a 3-year relationship because she didn't want to go to Boston, but was mad that I still wanted to go without her. Now I'm happily married to a non-toxic and wonderful woman, and that experience taught me a lot and allowed me to dodge a bullet. She tried making moves on one of my closest friends. Didn't think he would tell me for some reason. I was early picking him up from work and saw the other woman dropping him off. They made out for a minute before he ran inside. He came out a few minutes later, having changed into his work shirt, and immediately started complaining about his coworkers. She accused me of cheating out of the blue, made me jump through crazy hoops to prove myself, but believed me, everything settled. 6 months later she did it again. It took 2 more of these to see the cycle. Simple sleuthery led to the admitted truth that every time I was accused, she was the one cheating. He bragged about it to a mutual friend thinking she wouldn't tell me. She missed our 10th anniversary to watch a movie with a guy she'd been seeing for 3 weeks, and his wife. I suspected him of having a thing for my friend, but he always gaslit me into thinking I was just insecure and paranoid. He had his phone connected to the Bluetooth in our shared vehicle. A text from my friend popped up, and before he could stop me, I pressed read. Text message said, "I love you. Can't wait for tomorrow." That day ended a 7-year relationship. He left his phone open to someone named Block texting him about her weird sunburn from her swimsuit straps. Funny thing is, I wouldn't have given it a second thought if the contact name in the phone was anything normal. So-and-so from work? Whatever, not a second thought. But telling a contact blocked, who clearly isn't blocked since they're messaging you, is just a big red flag. Got chlamydia. I knew I didn't mess around, and my ex before her tested negative, so there wasn't many options left. 1 + 1 = 2. Found Shrek's tape at 4 a.m. It is kind of surreal that I found it. Dog woke me up to take her outside to potty. I already had been assuming my ex-wife had been cheating, but had no proof. Found a digital video camera in a travel bag one time and some lingerie in a travel bag, and she said she was planning something for me, which was so out of character for her. Let's just say I would have been surprised to find out she was planning on filming a Shrek's Pinot of us, as her Shrek's life was dead. Plus she had been out of town several times to visit friends. There was no SD card in the digital camera though. Back to the night in question. So after our dog came back inside, I looked to my right and saw my ex-wife's purse sitting on the washer. The moonlight was perfectly centered, shining on the purse. It was the closest thing to a sign. I walked over to it and saw a zipper pocket inside the purse. Inside that was a container with an SD card. At that moment I knew exactly what I had found, but I needed to be sure. I took it out, put it in my laptop, and sure enough are like 20 different videos. Each file is tailored with the date and time that coincide with her visits out of town. Sure enough, they are all videos of her having sex with someone. I had a feeling for a while. It was always denied, of course, directly and through a massive amount of gaslighting. Ultimately, the other woman was also married and her husband called me at work, found me via LinkedIn, took everything I had to walk to my car to cry in private. He called me to tell me he was at his guy friend's house. Okay, love you, have fun. 2 seconds later my phone rings again and I can hear him and a woman laughing at how easy that was. My guitar at home was tuned to drop D and there were Smoker's Choice cigarette butts in my ashtray. He drove past me when he was supposed to be out of town overnight for work. I had her phone to take a cute photo of our cat. Text notification popped up, I can't wait to make love to you. When my STD test came back and the doctor said, verbatim, well, your girlfriend is lying to you. As a sports writer for a daily newspaper, I was assigned to cover high school football games across the region. I happened to be working a game in my hometown one Friday night. My then wife took her turn as a band booster mom working the concession stand at that same game. Because my schedule was so random, she had no clue I was there that night. Sitting in the press box keeping stats for my story, I used binoculars to better see the game. I spotted my wife in the visitor's side concession stand. Standing next to her was a local cop. When I saw them kiss, I knew. We eventually divorced. The cop divorced his wife of more than 30 years in order to marry my ex. They were married about a year, then divorced. I've remarried and will celebrate my 9th wedding anniversary in May. The other woman knocked on my front door and asked me to take my kid and get out so that the two of them could be together and be happy. I told her she could have him, but they'd have to go, because technically I owned the house. I then told him he was free to go. He did not go, sadly. She'd been dropped off by her ex who she cheated on with my ex-husband. That was quite awkward. Caught her at an internet cafe messaging someone on an adult dating site. Low, best thing I could have done. She didn't hide it very well. I caught her at a bar the first time, immediately began sleeping in separate rooms, then during a cancer scare for me. She said she was going to a friend's house. I did the old 69 on the phone, and a dude answered the phone. She asked for separation on a Wednesday, called on a Friday to ask for her stuff. I said sure. I need you to sign some papers, divorce papers. Her Facebook profile picture had his reflection taking the photo. He had told me he was away for a weekend with his friends. Broke up with this guy, because I just wasn't in love anymore. A few weeks later, I was still a moping mess because of how guilty I felt. He did everything to make me feel guilty, too. And a mutual friend hated saying me like this, so he told me. The guy had cheated on me a few times, with a close friend of mine, a few months ago. Turns out a lot of my friends had known for months without telling me. She became more and more distant. Not just that, but also indifferent. She just stopped caring and it showed. I caught her, because she claimed she was working OT, but her pay never reflected it. One day I got out of work early after a machine broke down in the department. I didn't tell her. When I came home, I caught her red-handed with someone in her bed. I was gone for a military school for 3 weeks. I came back and hung out with our neighbors, and turns out she had sex with a guy in their house when they had a little get-together. Worst part, for me, was that the neighbors told me they noticed her and the guy were gone for an extended period of time while they were watching our then 4-year-old son. I found out about 5 hours before her scheduled flight to Alaska, where the military was sending me. I had about a week between the school and the move where we all hung out like nothing happened. That psychopath actually introduced me to him and I shook his hand. Obviously before they told me. I still cringe to this day. Therapy is necessary. He told me he is at church. Then I heard a voice asking in the background, "Babe, why are you hiding in the bathroom?" He still had the guts to deny it. Our 14-year-old daughter went through his phone and caught him. So yeah, that was cute. Found single bottle cap on the stairs. I didn't drop it there. I don't drink upstairs and I hadn't had a drink all week. I CSI'd the crap out of that little piece of evidence. She was supposed to be on a business trip. but had been home while I was at work. Caught her with her hand down her pants talking to her boss on the phone. The way he smiled when texting his female friend, but as soon as I spoke to him, all light and happiness disappeared from his eyes. I had a gut feeling. He was in nursing school and would routinely have classmates over to study. There was a younger girl and I got a weird feeling about her. I got out of work early one day and found her in my home, where my young children were. They were on the couch not doing anything, but I knew. He made up some bullshit story as to why she was there. He said the alarm at his parents' house was going off and he called her to come babysit. A few days later, I asked if he could meet up near where he was studying to just grab a quick coffee so we could catch up. He declined. A few days after that, he was home and showering. Phone went off and he never locked it. I decided to look at his phone and there was a text from his friend, Andy, who is male. At first I was like, oh, I'm just paranoid maybe. But I read the message and it definitely wasn't from his friend Andy. It was the girl from school, and the message clearly showed me he was cheating. He came downstairs and I simply said we should separate and start the process for divorce. He said okay. They are married now. I'm in a good relationship. All worked out in the end. Never ever ignore your gut instinct. This was 7 or so years ago now. He was in the military, so we were long distance. The woman he was cheating on me with for like 6 months Facebook messaged me one day telling me everything. Not because she suddenly felt guilty, but because she was pissed he cheated on her and gave her chlamydia. They ended up getting back together, got married and had a kid like a year later. But shockingly that didn't work out and now they're divorced. Person shrugging.